Cool. Welcome back to the Soft Compound Podcast. The 2022 Formula One season is finally over, obviously. So now time to, I guess, look ahead a little bit into next year. We're going to look into what the driver grid's going to look like. A lot of changes, some new drivers, and some really big news kind of broke this morning. And we're going to get to all that. We'll go down the grid. I guess we can. That's the way we'll structure it a little bit. We can start with Red Bull. Like I said, we're going to be going over just what the grid's going to be looking like for next year. There are some changes, not really when it comes to Red Bull though. So obviously they're going to have Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez returning back to the grid in 2023.
A little change for Red Bull.
Well,
their driver.
I was getting there.
Sorry. I spoiled it.
Spoiled the surprise.
I'll be quiet.
No, they're welcoming back a familiar face in Daniel Ricciardo as their reserve driver. One thing I did hear about kind of what his duties will be, he's not going to be necessarily going to every race and doing all of the kind of grunt work that a reserve driver would do. And I think they're going to have people like Liam Lawson, who is an F2 driver, one of their academy drivers. They're going to be doing more things like that. Daniel will be coming to 5 or 6 races, 7 races. This is just something I read, but he'll be going to, like I said, 5 to 7 races and doing a lot of different marketing things for Red Bull, and also doing, simulator work and things like that, further developing the car for the team. So yeah, really good to have Daniel Ricciardo back, at least on the F1 paddock, you know what I mean? Just to see him around. We'll see him around. He's an amazing personality. Definitely one of the reasons why I fell in love with Formula One. So yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think I was reading something, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he was saying something like this is a good change for him because he needed a break. I mean, he just needed a break from the mental stress of the whole circuit, the traveling, the whole,
Definitely.
Now at least, I'm sure he'll be traveling with the team, but
right.
But, not racing and not really having that pressure of racing every week, is, he's been doing it for a long time. So
exactly. Yeah. I mean, geez, that's something that's not talked about a lot, but the pressure that a Formula One driver is under every time they get behind the wheel of the car, obviously they're trained and they're not going to just throw it in the wall, but that's a $15 million vehicle you're piloting. You know what I mean? I mean,
exactly.
It's an extremely stressful spot for them to be in, I'm sure. So yeah, one other thing I wanted to touch on with Red Bull is, the chemistry between Max and Checo. And, obviously we all know what happened, at the end of the year, things kind of seemed a little shaky. Max not willing to relinquish a P6 for Checo. We won't get into all that, but maybe the chemistry might be a little off. Probably not. I wrote probably not, honestly, because I think they're both professionals and they both just want to win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
whatever. It happens that way, and there's going to be disagreements along the way, and shit happens, and they'll get over it probably, or maybe they won't. Who knows?
Who knows? You
never know what's going to happen, but that's the way I feel like it. I don't think it's even going to be talked about next year. To be honest, I think it's going to be. Yeah. They're both going to, like what management should do is obviously sit down with them and talk it out and work it out, and obviously they lost control of it because there was obviously some disagreement there, and obviously something that they disagreed about, and. They should have nipped it in the bud right there. Yeah. But that's that stuff should have never happened.
Definitely not. Yeah. Whether it was, they were not in agreement or miscommunication, it's definitely, the fault of upper management or executives at Red Bull for sure.
Yeah, well, Horner falls on Horner. I mean, he's everything that, is that kind of thing. I feel like falls on the head honcho because he needs to be the one that's, has his finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of head honchos, I don't know if you have anything else for Red Bull.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so speaking of head honchos, this is my transition that I had lined up. Mattia Binotto, former team principal of Ferrari, is now out. Ferrari has officially accepted his resignation. This was kind of rumored for, days leading up to today, and I was tweeting about it and really active on it because it's a huge story. And, of course, the news broke about 4 a.m. our time, so there was no way I could even be close to one of the first ones to put it out or anything like that. So I had no shot. I woke up at, 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Your sleep schedule, especially during the season.
I seriously, it's funny you say that.
I'll be on the UK 5 hour ahead of our time.
I'm going to have to. At least, like you said, for the season. But like, if I'm trying to do this soft compound thing, you know what I mean? When news breaks, I want to tweet it no matter what time it is, our time. You know what I mean? I was seriously thinking that I might have to start waking up
call
at like 5, you know what I mean? And just sitting on my phone just to see like what's happening. Because every day I wake up and I got to go right to Twitter to see what happened overnight. Little sidebar, but yeah. Ferrari officially accepted Mattia Binotto's resignation. And yeah, like I said, it was kind of rumored the past couple of days, so it wasn't a huge surprise, but it's a huge deal. I mean, the team principal of Ferrari is like one of the biggest job positions anyone can hold in Formula One. Ferrari is this huge team, you know what I mean? They have such a long history, and you know their fans expect to win. The Tifosi, the Italian Ferrari fans, they expect to win, and if they don't win, they feel as though they're not even competing.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
A team with all that history, and you know, obviously they won all those titles with Schumacher and things like that. It's got to be one of the most pressured positions to be in Formula One. I mean, maybe just as much as a driver. You know what I mean? Because he, like you said with Horner, they're responsible for everything.
For sure it is.
Yeah, 100%.
When you're the head honcho, everything falls on you. And, you know, with all the problems Ferrari had throughout the year, whether, you know, at first it was mechanical, and then it just seemed like they couldn't get their shit together with the strategy. And then they were, you know, asking Leclerc what he thinks about the strategy should be, which is fine. But are they really? I don't even know what the protocol is, but it seems like the team should lay out the strategy. And
100%.
And they, you know, from bad pit stops to bad timing on the pit stops to a lot of different things that Ferrari was doing, which just, you know, just made you think that they just did not have control of that game plan.
Exactly. Yeah, one thing I did want to, you know, touch on is that I've heard from, you know, other people or other, you know, even people around the paddock, this Mattia Binotto guy is a complete genius when it comes to engineering a race car. This is his thing, you know what I mean? That's how he got his start in racing and things like that. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, he is probably better suited in a engineer, maybe head of something, you know what I mean? I don't even know what the job titles are, but a head engineer in the garage, maybe that's a better position for him. Because like you said, I don't think he really had like the leadership aspect, the people skills to really like manage all these people. There's that not famous, but it went viral, the video of him like wagging his finger at Leclerc and things like that. Like, I don't think there was also a lot of situations that I don't think he handled very well, including, you know, strategy like you touched on and things like that. Yeah, I mean, and then of course going back to, you know, maybe let's cut him some slack. It seems like it's the hardest job in F1.
Well, it is, but some people just aren't cut out for it, and some people are just better at concentrating on one thing and focusing on one thing rather than managing a whole organization, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's okay. People are better at some things and not better at other things. I'm not great at everything. Whatever I'm not good at, I outsource. It's like
exactly.
Anything creative, okay.
Yeah.
I suck at I'm not a creative person, so anyways, anything we need creative wise, I push off to somebody else pretty much.
Yeah, you got to play to your strengths for sure. And then, you know, talks of even, the front runner to replace him is Fred Vasseur. He is the current team principal at Alfa Romeo. They had an amazing year this year. They finished P6 in the constructors, which is awesome for them. That was not, you know, obviously it was in the picture at the beginning of the year for them, but it's amazing that they were able to secure P6. So Fred Vasseur had a really good year at Alfa Romeo. He is, like I said, the favorite for the job. And yeah, I don't know.
They secured P6 and arguably had the best looking car.
Not arguably, they had the best looking car. They're awesome. I don't understand why you wouldn't like them. I don't know. I also like I like Bottas. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry, Bottas. I heard something.
Bottas?
I heard something that we've been fucking up lately.
Bottas?
Apparently, that's a very American thing to say.
We're American.
Bottas. Sorry. But yeah, no, I heard some other podcasts say that, and they were like, "Oh, what do you like, Bottas?" I was like, "Oh shit, that's what we say." Bottas. I don't know. Now I'm confused.
It is what it is.
Now I'm confused. So yes, the correction from Bottas to Bottas has been made. Sorry, Valtteri. You're one of my favorite drivers. But yeah, Fred Vasseur, like we said, had an amazing year. Amazing looking car.
We have to start saying garage now?
Garage. Yeah, right. Like it's like,
I mean, if we
I
really
feel like
want
it's
to
just a
pronounce
pronunciation
things right.
thing. Yeah. Well, really, that's not. I don't know if that's
Debris?
exactly right. We can get into all that.
Okay,
We can get into all
Debris
that.
Garage.
We can do a whole. That's the next video
Commentary
that's
box.
getting added into the pipeline. Is
I'm gonna start
different
using. I'm just gonna start using those words whenever I can. Commentary.
All right, yeah. So obviously, big. I wanted to kind of maybe I'll even do like we can do a whole video on this whole Mattia Binotto situation because it is really big. Ferrari team principal is a huge position in Formula One. A lot of people, really care about Ferrari, like we care about the Bills. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
It's their thing. So this is really big for sure. Moving on beyond the team principal, one thing I did want to touch on just about the drivers and Leclerc specifically. Ferrari really need to prove themselves to Leclerc this year, or they're definitely going to risk losing him. Like you touched on, the strategies, the everything really. Besides producing a good car, Ferrari had a good car this year. You know what I mean? They just weren't able to capitalize, and maybe it was partly Leclerc's fault as well in some instances. But I think they really need to prove themselves to Leclerc this year, or you might look at other options.
I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think it was Leclerc. I don't remember any situations where it was actually Leclerc that I thought was.
Yeah.
Because you look back. I mean, if we remember back when the season started, Ferrari had the best car, hands down.
Oh yeah,
hands down best car, right?
It was a 1-2 in Bahrain. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, hands down, they had the best car, and they have two really good drivers. So,
right.
You put that together, and if they could have kept that up all year, I mean, Leclerc would have been the champion.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, Leclerc is the golden child at Ferrari, and
I thought there was one race, maybe I don't remember what it is, but maybe he did something. But you go back to like I said, the mechanical issues, the strategy issues, I think you're right. If they don't get their shit together, it's going to be a complete disaster this year, and he's going to say, screw this. This is bullshit.
Well, that's the other thing. A testament to Leclerc, even with all this shit he was dealing with his team, he still secured P2 in the Drivers' Championship this year. He was able to knock off Checo and do all that. So he's if not one of the most sought after talents, on the grid for sure, So they got to be careful because, in the next 3 to 4 years, Lewis might be leaving. Who knows what might open up at Mercedes or another team? Who knows? I think I mentioned to you earlier, what if there's a fourth team competing for podiums consistently now? And, the Leclerc goes to Alpine, for example. Who knows? But yeah, Ferrari definitely have to be on their shit more this year for sure.
Well, they do, and I think that we all know, based on how Mercedes finished, what they're going to do next year.
Oh, right.
I don't know. It just seems like
let's talk
they're
about
not
Mercedes
going to.
A little. Yeah.
They're not going to have the year that they had this year. That's for sure. Especially since they have things a little bit more figured out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could tell that at the end of the year they had a much stronger car. Even Mattia Binotto, I tweeted a link to an article from the F1 website. It was good. He was basically just saying that he was surprised that their first win came so late in the season. He was saying that even at the halfway mark of the season, their car was so much better than it was that they should have had a win earlier or whatever. That was his point. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is the first year developing a new car. This is obviously a big change, a lot of changes in the regulations as well. So Mercedes had some things to figure out. Also, last year's title fight definitely took a lot of time away from the development of the new car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of things kind of stacked up against them. Lewis was trying different setups throughout the first half of the year, trying a bunch of wacky things to see what would work. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a really different Mercedes next year.
We'll see. I mean, George proved that he's going to be there for a long time, and he's, obviously it feels like you take a good driver and put him in a good car. That's the formula for success, and that's what they have, I think.
Yeah, there is seriously no doubt about George Russell. I mean, I don't even think there was much of a doubt from a lot of people with him when he was at Williams. Even they kind of were super hot on him, and he definitely proved it in his first year in a top 3 team. It just kind of sucks for him too. Like he he was lined up to go to Mercedes, and he watched them win all these world titles. Then he finally gets to Mercedes, and they're third.
At least he won. At least he won one race.
I know. No, I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of him, but I'm glad he was able to get a win. And Mercedes is going to be a force to be reckoned with next year, I think, for sure. Not too much going on with drivers changes or anything like that. But one thing, as things kind of heat up for Mercedes and as they're more consistently competing for wins, I think we might see some, bad effects on Lewis and George's relationship when it comes to that. It seems like they're all buddy-buddy right now, and, Max and Checo weren't getting along for a while, so everyone was taking advantage of that. But I think as soon as they're consistently competing for wins, they're not going to be as nice to each other.
That's probably not.
I think the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton will come out, and I think the young, hungry George Russell will also come out.
Yeah,
they're not going to care.
Maybe we saw a little bit of that this year too. I mean,
yeah,
it was more about George. George was probably the more consistent driver this year, but But like you said, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I heard, like you said, they're trying different setups with Lewis's car and the whole whatever. I mean, who knows what's really going on.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But
all right. I want to talk about McLaren a little. I mean, this is definitely, we got a new driver. As we previously mentioned, Daniel Ricciardo is now with Red Bull as they're in the reserve spot. So we have Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. I think we all remembered kind of what happened with the Piastri situation. This was crazy. It happened during the summer break. If you don't remember, basically, Alpine tweeted that they were signing Oscar for next year, and then Oscar tweeted that he was not driving for Alpine next year, and just kind of like that's exactly what happened. Like everyone was super confused, and no one really knew what was going on, including Alpine. And then all of a sudden, McLaren signs Piastri. That was the very short of the story, but just kind of wanted to touch on, it's really, really interesting how he got to McLaren. You know what I mean? He was in the Alpine system. He was coming up through their driver academy or whatever it was. Oh, yeah. Alpine decided to discontinue their driver academy because of this whole situation. So, yeah, he came up through their academy. And, yeah, this is just a crazy story, but now we're here, and we got Lando and Oscar Piastri. It's going to be super interesting. Another rookie coming into F1. So, yeah.
Be interesting to see how Piastri does. I mean, seems like it's always interesting when new drivers come in and
exactly.
And come into a good. I think McLaren has. They've had their issues too, but
for sure.
They were better as the year went on, and at the end they were. I mean, Ricciardo, his car. He finished 8th in the last race or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Top 10 finish in his last race, so
good send off.
And Lando's been in and out of it all year,
Definitely.
First couple races they were not good, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens. I'm always excited to see how new drivers
compete, right?
Yeah, how they handle the car. Are they going to handle it different than Ricciardo, or is it going to be the same old thing?
Right.
That's the thing I always look back at is like how much does the driver matter? Like, all these guys are great drivers.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you put Yuki in the Mercedes, how's he going to do? Or you put, you put some of these guys back, and I think we saw it the other way with Bottas going Alfa Romeo. He's a good driver, but just not the same car as Mercedes.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the same team, whatever.
Exactly.
I find it interesting about seeing how new drivers are going to handle the cars.
Right, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So, and I think he's, Piastri's coming into a good situation with McLaren.
Yeah, I think,
he's not coming into Williams like Logan Sargent or whatever.
100%. Yeah, let's definitely talk about him too. But yeah, no, exactly. Speaking of Piastri a little bit, if that's all you got, I'd like to move on to Alpine, just because obviously we just touched on the whole Piastri situation with Alpine. And the drivers are going to be Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. So Ocon and Pierre have had issues in the past. Even I read today, going back to their karting days, they didn't like each other or whatever. There were some documented issues between them. But one thing I also wanted to say is Ocon has issues with everyone. Like, there's the famous clip of Max pushing him because of something that happened on the track. He doesn't like Pierre, and he literally today, made some comment about Fernando where he was saying it was to some Italian newspaper or something that basically he didn't do anything to develop the car. All the workload was on Esteban. He said it was a 98% to 2%. That's what he said, workload, as far as that goes. And he said he was doing all the marketing, all the sim work, all of that. And I think Fernando basically said something along the lines of he's glad he's leaving the team or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some weird stuff going on with Alpine, in my opinion. This whole thing with Piastri, now with Fernando Alonso. I mean, he has been a hothead historically, but still, I think there's something going on with these. I don't know whether it's with Ocon or the team or how Ocon and the team work with another driver in the mix. I don't know, but we'll see with Pierre this year. I think they got two experienced drivers who are really going to be wanting to compete for race wins. They're not neither of them are gonna take a second seat. You know what I mean? They're definitely gonna be up in the forefront. And we have all French team now. Alpine is a French brand, and Ocon and Gasly are both from France. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. So yeah, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to Alfa Romeo. We touched on it a little bit. My boy Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou Guan Yu, sorry. All I have written down is I love these guys. They're probably whatever. I'm a Red Bull fan, but I'm also a really big Alfa Romeo fan because I like Bottas. I was a fan of Bottas because he was the driver at Mercedes no one knew about, basically, in my opinion. You know what I mean? He was the backup guy. He was the guy behind the scenes, and that was kind of my perspective on it when I was coming into the sport too. It's it was a little different, but that's kind of why I liked him. He was the guy supporting Lewis and whatever, and he's a solid driver. And, he had a really good year at Alfa Romeo. The first half of the year was a lot better than the second half for him. But, and then Zhou Guan Yu really proved himself in Formula One this year. He was part of probably the scariest crash I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I was, man, almost don't want to even talk about it, but he was okay. So it was all good. But, he really proved himself grabbing a lot of points when maybe it didn't even seem possible for the team. So, like I said, all I've written down is that I love these guys, and they had a sweet car.
Yeah, the design of the car was unmatched this year, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that'll be interesting next year to see if they're going to kind of go with the same kind of color scheme. Whatever. That's always interesting. Design.
Yeah. They were one of the two teams that had like a design on the wheels, around the rims. Yep. I think it looked so clean. They were driving like, I don't know. It looked really cool.
The only other design on the wheel was what, McLaren with the Google thing?
Yeah, they had the Google Chrome thing. That was pretty cool too. But okay. AlphaTauri. Big changes here too. So we got Yuki Tsunoda coming back, fan favorite for sure. But then we have Nick DeVries. So we all remember what happened with Nick. Alex Albon was in the hospital with like appendicitis. It ended up being like actually kind of serious thing, which is, thank God he's okay. But it gave Nick an opportunity to fill in for Williams. He was in the Mercedes Driver Academy, so Williams is a Mercedes-powered team. He got in the car and did an amazing job. He finished P9 at Monza. It's insane. It's literally insane. He jumps into Williams, which is basically a garbage can on wheels. They're a back marker on the grid, and he scored a point in his first
really good.
His first Formula One race. I couldn't believe it. He proved everything that he needed to prove. Yeah,
for sure.
He wasn't even he was definitely in contention for a Formula One seat, but he wasn't like a front runner. I remember he wasn't the front runner in conversation, at least until this. And then it was no question he's getting signed. So just an amazing story, really, really cool to watch. And I hope he does good. Another Dutch driver on the grid too, which is awesome.
Yeah, he did really well. I remember that race. What race was he in?
Monza, the Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was that was amazing to see, because that's where I always come back to, right? Where, how much does the driver matter? And clearly it mattered a lot for him.
Exactly.
To have him in that car.
Yeah.
To show that.
That's a good point.
Hey, he's a good driver and he belongs there.
Definitely. Yeah. Not too much more on Nick DeVries. I mean, like I said, we all remember what happened, so not too much.
DeVries or DeVries? Are you already screwed up Bottas?
It's DeVries, actually. So the way I remember this one is it looks like fries, but it's not fries.
Not fries.
It's not. It's freeze.
It's not French fries.
As Americans, we struggle with the pronunciation of a lot of these names and words, but we're trying.
Well, everybody mispronounces my last name, so I don't feel.
I was gonna say right.
I don't feel it bad. Sorry, sorry, Bottas.
Okay. Maybe moving on. We got Aston Martin now, with Fernando Alonso joining the team, pairing with obviously Lance Stroll. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, Fernando Alonso, like I said previously, he's leaving Alpine, and definitely not under good terms. I mean, he was asked, whatever. I think he was asked like if he felt as though he needed to smooth over the relationship with Ocon, and he literally just said no. He said it was before Abu Dhabi, and he said no, there's one race left, and then it's finally over. I think that was the quote. Maybe I'll pull it up. But man, he did not seem to enjoy his time there, especially at the end. And I just go back to, I think something weird is happening. Something weird's going on in Alpine where, I don't know, they're rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. They're having Piastri openly state on Twitter that I will not be driving for you guys when he officially didn't sign another contract with the team. So there's a lot going on there, probably a lot to unpack. But Alonso also said that he already feels as though next year Aston Martin will be above Alpine, which is kind of crazy in my opinion. But he did say that because Alpine is like one of these teams that is looking to be a front runner in Formula One, and Aston Martin was definitely more of a back marker this year. So it's crazy that he said that, but
yeah, I don't know. The way I look at it is like, I feel like all these teams are kind of like they're all kind of within arm's reach of each other.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
1 week Aston Martin does, it's like 1 week this year, Vettel was doing
right
better. Stroll had moments, and then Alpines for sure had their moments this year too. But
yeah,
I think we kind of see that from all these teams except maybe Williams. But you know that they have flashes of top excellence, flashes, and maybe we're going to make the top 10.
Well, right, and I think it has a lot to do with the different tracks too. And they're like, oh, this is a high downforce track, so
even AlphaTauri, we saw them. They had flashes where they were flirting with
a team that didn't do that.
Top 5, top 10, even.
They definitely put a car up there from time to time. Shoot, I don't remember this specifically last thing.
Oh my God, that's what happens when you take a bathroom break.
Sorry, but what I do remember something I did want to say, and I remember you touched on it that Lance Stroll had some moments of excellence this year, because he did for sure. I mean, there was one I don't remember the race specifically, but it was right off the start of the race. It was a wet race too. It might have been Japan. It was Japan. He found like this weird inside dry line off the start of the race, and he was able to gain like 4 or 5 positions. So he was definitely showing some good race IQ this year, but he also showed some really bad race IQ. There was a really scary incident between Alonso, his new teammate, and him, where Alonso was about to overtake him on the straight, went to overtake him on the left, and Stroll just kind of moved the car to the left a little bit, totally popped Alonso's car straight up, did a wheelie, super, super incredibly scary. So he definitely showed some bad instances. He kind of ran Vettel off the track. I think it was in Abu Dhabi or maybe the race before. So he showed some moments of excellence and moments of
Vettel. He said, okay.
Yeah, he was like, okay. Yeah.
Well, Vettel was coming this way, and he was coming this way, it seemed like, right into him.
Yeah, and then, like, Vettel had 2 wheels on the grass all of a sudden. So, yeah, that was scary for sure. But, he's Lance Stroll. That's kind of what you get, I guess.
Yep.
All right. We can talk about Haas a little bit, our American team.
Yeah.
Cool. We got K-Mag obviously coming back, had an amazing year. Didn't even think he was going to be in Formula One this year. And then, joined the team late. And did amazing. Ended up having his first pole position in qualifying for the sprint race, so that's awesome. And then they're bringing in back Nico Hülkenberg to Formula One. So Nico, he drove with Renault most recently, and he's just known for being a solid driver. He's not going to put the car on the wall. He's going to grab you some points, and he's going to just show his experience out there. You know what I mean? He's
it's exciting.
To be a solid driver.
I mean, it is exciting. I thought Magnussen did well. It seemed like every other race he was qualifying well or finishing well or doing something that was
definitely,
something that was, making his name be part of the race at least.
Yeah, I feel like even if it was even some, like you said, a qualifying Q1 or a P3, a practice session or something like that, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, Magnussen's P4. You're like, what?
Yeah, right,
like every now and then he'd be like right up there, which is awesome. Which is really, really cool. And then obviously, like they said, they got Hülkenberg back. He does hold a somewhat unfortunate record in Formula One. I believe he's the longest standing driver, or the driver with the most races and no podiums.
Wow. So
he has never stood on a Formula One podium, and hopefully he can change that for Haas. That would be amazing too.
Yeah.
Could you imagine them on a podium?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool. They're gonna have 2 experienced drivers, super solid for Haas.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean Haas, I would, I always want them to, be cool if they would have the American flag as their color scheme.
I know, right? I mean, I think
it kind of is their color scheme, but I would love to see them incorporate the American flag somehow in their whole car.
Yeah. So I hope they move a little bit towards that this year. I mean, they had the Russian sponsorships and everything like that, so they kind of, I guess, went for a little more of the Russian color scheme. But you never know.
It'd be kind of cool. It would even be better if Logan Sargent was driving for Haas.
Dude, I was just going to say that. I mean, let's move on to Williams because that's all I got on Haas. Williams is doing, in our opinion, the coolest thing F1's ever done since the last American driver was in.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
We're excited about that.
They're signing Logan Sargent. He's from, I believe, like Fort Myers, Florida or something like that. And, yeah, he's going to be the first full-time American driver on the F1 grid in, like, forever. I believe there was an American driver in, like, 2015, 2014, something like that, but he wasn't even full-time. He might have been a reserve or something like that. So, yeah, super exciting. I'm definitely a Logan Sargent fan for sure. Gotta be, right?
I'm a Logan Sargent fan, mostly because of his name.
Sargent. It is pretty.
Logan Sargent. How much better of a name can you get for an American driver than that? Right?
It's pretty fucking cool. It's pretty cool.
That is craziness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing talking about Logan, he needed to finish P6 in his last F2 race to earn enough points for his super license. And he did that. So he literally had, he was driving for his Formula One career at one point in F2 this year on the last race. And he was able to secure it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously returning Albon, who did a lot of good things for Williams this year. He was definitely obviously much better than Latifi throughout the year, consistently better. I feel like Albon was able to grab a couple points here and there.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty good. But yeah, Logan, some new drivers on the F1 grid this year, including Logan Sargent. We got Nick DeVries and Oscar Piastri. So
yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Mattia Binotto is officially out of Ferrari, currently out of Formula One. Let's see if he gets maybe hired back in an engineering position for next year. I think there's some like cool down where he can't get right back with another team or something like that, maybe 6 months or something.
Cool down period. No compete contract.
Pretty much, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of shit happened. So had to let you know what was good. Wanted to give you a preview on the 2023 drivers grid, and yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Got anything else?
No, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the off season, and I think the off season is, it's not equally as fun as the in season, but there's so much going on, and the off season isn't that long.
Right. That's the beautiful thing about Formula One. I feel like
March should be back at it.
Right, and we got testing before then, and
you really got like 3 months. Seems like 2 months, but
right?
More like 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other videos I think we're going to try to do. I mean, the ones I know we were talking, we should like watch older races that we had the opportunity to watch, and then do a race review on that or something like that.
Right.
Definitely even some different sim racing videos. There's gonna be a lot of cool things we're doing in the off season, so definitely stay tuned. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. The logo's off the TV, but no worries. We'll get better. We'll
get better at that.
It's just like I know we're trying.
We're American.
We're American. We're stupid. All right. Really appreciate it, guys. Though seriously, have a good one. Peace out.
Later.